Well, hi, everybody. Welcome back to Exciting Adventures and Social Studies with Mr. Keelan. I'm here with my friends from 6-2. Everybody from 6-2, say hello.
What's up?
All right. Today we're going to talk about a real important innovation that deals with a major problem in Mesopotamia, and that is the problem of flooding. Flooding, we all know, was real bad for the Mesopotamians. So we're going to look and explore. Oh, I'm so glad that the notes went all the way back to the beginning. Let's hear for the notes, everybody. Yeah, all right. Thank you, notes. Thank you, notes. Thank you, notes. There we go. So we're going to come back there. So we're going to talk about the problem of flooding, which we know is a big deal in Mesopotamia since it's the land between two rivers, and rivers tend to flood. And how the development of levees was a way that we find that the Mesopotamians helped solve this problem. So let's talk about that problem a little bit more. Oh my gee willikers. Flooding was really bad along the banks of the Tigris and Euphrates. During the spring, the mountains way up in Turkey, where the source of the Tigris and the Euphrates River are, Lake Kazan, and where up in the mountains. The mountains during the spring, the snow starts to thaw, and water drip, 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 starts making its way into the rivers. By the time all that water melts and gets into the rivers, when you're in the lower part of Mesopotamia, near the mouth, near the most fertile areas like near Sumer and Babylon and Nineveh and many of the cities that we're going to be talking about, that water gets a lot bigger. I see my man Ranveer has a bottle of water right there. Now, him walking around with a bottle of water is probably no big deal. Well, let's imagine he's the river during normal times. He can carry that water. He's great. But if all of a sudden I give him 40 water bottles to carry, loose. And what's probably going to be happening? Yeah, they're going to fall. They're going to go all over the place. We're going to have a flood of water bottles. Well, that's what happens during the flood season. 40 times the amount of water comes rushing down. And the river just can't hold it all. It's like, this is just too much. And the water spreads all over the land. Spreads all over the land. Hey, Jules, you should have a notebook out, as I mentioned previously. Thank you. So, anyway, and not be playing with the gas jet, as I mentioned previously. Anyway, so the water has 40 times the amount that it had before, which is really, really crazy. That's hard for it to carry, so it spreads out all over the place. And we know that the Mesopotamians really needed that water. Because the water carried what? What was that rich soil, Dan? Silt, he says, and he is correct. Silt. It needs that silt. Without the silt, you don't have the food. If you don't have the food, you don't have the life. You're dead. And because that river is so unpredictable, some years it would flood in this area too much, wiping away everything. Some years it would not flood over here, giving no silt and causing that land to go dry. So the Mesopotamians need to figure out a way to control the river. Control it. Now, we talked about last time some of the ways that they control the river. One of them is irrigation, right? Give the water more places to go. By the way, you can see how crazy the flooding is here. Look at this. This guy is parasailing on land. That's the land. That's all the farming fields. And he is surfing on land because there's that much water. Pretty crazy, right? And as you can see, when it floods, it's bad. But we know with irrigation is one way. But getting the water to go to those irrigation canals is another thing that they need to do. How can we make sure that water steers toward all of our canals? You are a smart kid by levees, yeah. We build walls along that river and we block it. We contain it. So levees are walls built out of earth, meaning dirt, rocks, sorrel. And remember, the Mesopotamians are building this like 6,000 years ago. So they don't have bulldozers. They can't call Bob the Builder, yes we can. They have to do this by hand. using oxes and other things to pull it. So the fact that they were able to build these walls out of earth so successfully that many of them, at least, they had to be rebuilt from time to time, but the same pathways of these levees, many of them are still in use today. Pretty crazy. These walls were made to basically contain the river. So if the water is going up, 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 you measure out each year. All right, what's the highest that the flooding went? What's the highest that the flooding went? All right, we got to build it higher than the highest point that it flooded it. So this way, no matter how bad the flooding got, even if it's 40 times the amount of water, we make sure that the wall is 41 times higher than it floods. So no matter what, even when it's at its worst, it will hold it in. Make sense? So they block it. They block it. And by making these, it makes the irrigation canals work better. So now, instead of the water that I want to get my irrigation canals down here, flooding up here, it now is all controlled and it goes right to where I want it. Into the soil, into the farm fields, dropping off all the silt and the soil where I want it. I can control the flood. The Mesopotamians don't want to stop the flood. Remember that. They don't want to stop the flood. They need the flood. They love the flood. They want the flood. They want to control the flood. And the walls allow them to do that. What's also pretty cool, and if we look at a depiction of a levee, we can see that, like here, the Euphrates River is taller. The ground, the levee is taller than the highest rise of the Euphrates River. Normally, the Euphrates River is down here. Flood season is up to here, but the town is built above it. And then if we look on the other side of it, because it's marshy, that silt, you have that wet soil because the river is right here, lots of grasses and other plants grow that you can use to feed your livestock. Sheep, ox, camels, other animals. You can now have more livestock, more domesticated animals, thanks to levees. Bonus solution. So my first problem was I got to control the floods. But then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, wait, I also have to feed my animals, and I could get more food for my animals this way? Oh, my goodness. Double solution. Now, remember, one of the things that we have to be really smart about is knowing the difference between a levee and a dam. A dam is walls in the middle of a river, right? Blocks the river, stops the flood, and basically stops the flow of the river and makes a lake behind it. Because the river just builds up and up and up and goes up and up and up and fills up the area that it's at. I've been to areas out west that used to be canyons that are now giant lakes, thanks to dams, damming up parts of the Colorado River. So, but a levee is walls on the side of a river. So if you look here, we can see this is flat land on this side, and they built trees on the top of the levee at the highest point where the river would flood. So here's where it normally is. It can rise up to here, but it won't get up there and destroy the rest of the land on the other side. Make sense? Yeah. All right. So, exit card number 3. How did levees allow Mesopotamians to control the flooding of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers? The notes? Yeah, give me 1 second to wrap this up. Yeah. So how did levees allow Mesopotamians to control the flooding of the river? By building walls, it blocks the flooding. So earthen walls block the flooding at its highest point, and this way they can control where flood water goes and direct it to their farm fields and their irrigation canals. I just gave you the answer if you're listening. Thanks for watching. I look forward to reading your answers on Google Classroom. Have a great day.